Hey, we're really excited to have Jay Nichols with us this morning. He is an author and a marine biologist and a dad of a high school graduating student, which is a super weird time. So let's all show him some love and welcome Jay.
Awesome. And as Jay gets started, I'm going to go ahead and play a little video that he has for us. So give me 1 second to play the video, and then Jay will jump in. So I'm going to get my screen back up here and share that video with you all now.
Understand blue mind is to first understand red mind. We're anxious, we're stressed, and that takes its toll. You're going to break down, you're going to fall apart. That's where blue mind comes in. Water is really the basis of life. We are all made of mostly water. We all spent the first 9 months of our lives swimming around in this dark watery pool called our mother. You need water to survive, but you also need water to thrive. Getting us more towards a blue mind state is really important for our personal health, for the health of our families, our communities, and even our country. We get so much from the waters of the world, and we have so much we can give back. And when that connection starts to flow, amazing things can happen.
All right. Let me stop sharing my screen. I think it stopped. No one can see my screen, correct?
Correct.
Cool. Jay, you're on.
Hey, good to see everybody. Thanks for inviting me to share a little bit here. I know the theme is nature, and there are people who they'll see something about nature and they'll say I'm doing that, and then there are people who will see something about nature and they'll say I'm never going to do that, whether it's a Zoom meeting or a book or a film. And so I try to avoid using the word nature when I talk about nature. And I tend to talk about water, which of course is the basis of all life on this planet that we live on. There's been life here for about 3.5 billion years, and water is implicated in the existence of all life. So when I talk about water, I'm really talking about nature in general, but it's kind of a sneaky way to get build a bigger nature choir, if you will. But the first thing I want to ask you to do is, while I'm saying a few words here, just go to the chat. And I have a simple question I ask every audience that I meet, which is, what's your water? Simple question. You can take that in any way you want, but just go over in the chat and just write down your answer. So, what's the water that you maybe first fell in love with? What's the water that you love the most right now in your life? What's your go-to water? And that may be literal or maybe metaphorical water. So this is a creative group with, you see these things going by. You've got lakes and rivers and the ocean, obviously pool, surfing, tap water, hot springs. You can read all these as they zoom by. So for some people, they say their water is their church. It's a very personal question. That's one of my favorite questions to ask people. If I'm sitting next to somebody, back in the day when we sat next to people, I would sometimes ask, what's your water, as an ice-breaking question. And it always opens up this incredible conversation about our childhood and about our current lives, where we live, where we've been, our connection. And this is a time when connection is in the spotlight, and figuring out how to reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with our planet. And the work I've been doing the last 10 years on Blue Mind, I think, gives us some insights into that, which is, I think, why Nate invited me to come and share a few words. I had some things I wanted to talk about initially, and then we went into our chat room, and I met these great people, and our coffee line. Sorry, it was a coffee line. We went in the coffee line a few minutes ago. I met these great people. A couple of them, Lois and Marshall. You may know Lois and Marshall Harrington, filmmakers, photographers, designers, communicators, lovers. And right at the end of our coffee line, they shared that they had this month lost Marshall's mom, a beloved woman, friend to everybody. And it kind of was a downer at the end of our coffee line, of course, but I'm carrying that forward here, and not to be a downer, but we're all experiencing loss right now, of lives, of careers, even of businesses, of changes. My 18-year-old daughter feels like she lost her senior year. She lost prom, she lost graduation. Losing lives, of course, is just way more devastating than anything. But we're all in a state of grief, whether we realize it or not. And as much as we are able to generate positivity on demand, because that may be actually your job, we're all grieving, and deep down somewhere, or maybe just right out in front. And that's important to talk about, and it really connects better than any emotion that I could conjure up right now in a conversation with creative people. Grief and loss and nature, water. And so my advice before our coffee line ended rather abruptly there, and what I wanted to say to Marshall and Lois, and I didn't get a chance to in our small group there, and now I'm going to share it with everyone, is get to the water. I know how you feel in that loss. I know it well. Get to your water. Whatever that you answered earlier, what's your water? Go see your water. Make that happen. Go spend time near, in, on, or under your water if you can. Fall in love with your water again. Take your grief and your pain to your water. That's one of the things water is for us, and always will be. From day one to the last day of your life, your water is a great place to grieve and mourn. If it's the shower, it's the bath, it's the lake, it's the river. In San Diego, you're fortunate to have a lot of options. It may be virtual water, it may be urban water, it may be fountains, could be wild water, domesticated water, the water in our homes, the pools, the spas, the tubs, the showers. San Diego's got a lot of all of that. So the main theme of Blue Mind really is that we undervalue water because we have a hard time talking about the cognitive, emotional, psychological, social, creative, and spiritual health benefits of water, which are vast and universal for all people, all cultures, all spiritual traditions, all sacred texts refer to water in this way, in this emotional well-being way. It's right in there. I'll just pull an example. The 23rd Psalm, which is the one a lot of people know. Basically, I'll paraphrase the 23rd Psalm, and apologies to anybody this offends. 23rd Psalm says, when the shit hits the fan, get your ass down to the water. That's what it says. Look it up. You can Google that right now. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. That's a bad day. That's a bad pandemic. That's the valley of the shadow of death. That's red mind. And when you feel that way, King James 3,000 years ago wrote in the 23rd Psalm, get your ass down to the water. Go chill out. It will soothe your soul. All spiritual traditions have some passage that says exactly that. So we can go back thousands of years. We can take it right up to modern neuroscience, which is my field. What we're learning is that water boosts your creativity. It calms you down. It connects you to yourself. It connects you to those you're with. It connects you to it. It connects you to nature, right? It boosts our ability to collaborate. All of these things we need right now more than ever in our lives, perhaps, to figure that out, boost our creativity, solve problems, work together, be calm. The opposite of blue mind is red mind. And we're all experiencing too much of that. And that is overload, distraction, just the fight or flight response that you get, too much information coming in, too much noise. And if you stay in red mind for too long, you end up in what we call gray mind. And gray mind is burnout, breakdown, not good. Red mind is really useful. Our red minds are really helpful. Gray mind is useless, pointless. You don't want to go there. The only good use for gray mind is to write angsty novels and music, which is lovely sometimes. But really, you don't want to go through a burnout on purpose in order to write angsty music. Trust me. And we've all experienced too much red mind. We've all felt ourselves dipping the toe into gray mind, at least, the ashes of burnout. And we all need to get back to this place, at least occasionally, that we refer to as blue mind. So the message to the San Diego creative community is you are so fortunate to be surrounded by so much amazing water. If you're not using it to boost your creativity, to increase your calmness, to enhance your collaborativeness, your connectivity, your curiosity, you're missing one of the best tools in your toolkit. And there are so many different ways to engage with your water. I know there are some surfers on here, some swimmers, some boaters, some paddlers, but just sitting and looking at it, water gazing, as Herman Melville referred to it, is good. Floating, there's some great float spas in San Diego. An enjoyable shower, just taking some time and having a mindful shower or bath. We forget to do that a lot. Pools and tubs and all the great fountains around your city. Even in the art museums, the depictions of water through art and design can really stop you in your tracks and put you into a blue mind state. Music, water-loving musicians singing about the water they love. And so all of those things are ways for us to activate, to practice blue mind daily. And by daily, I mean daily. For 15 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes, half an hour, whatever you can possibly muster. Add that to your to-do list. So stretching is good. Drinking a glass of water is important. Practicing blue mind daily. There you go. Hey, drink up. Practice blue mind daily. And we've made it as simple as possible. We do this thing every summer. We're in our 7th year of something we call 100 Days of Blue Mind Challenge. It started on Memorial Day, runs through Labor Day. Very simple. Just a reminder. We use the Blue Mind hashtag. Practice blue mind in some way. There's no right or wrong, and share your story. And it those challenges encourage us to connect to each other and do things together, and we build new habits. So I've actually an ask of this community. If there's something in this simple idea, which is not a new idea, it's an ancient idea, and the innovation comes from putting the idea into action, into practice, and delivering it to the people who need it most. So if there's something in this idea about water, the true value of water to our emotional health that resonates with you, practice it and share it. Put it out into the world in some way. If you're a music maker, there's a great song by Alexia Murdoch called Blue Mind. Put music and put sound into the world. If you're a designer or a photographer, a painter, filmmaker, put these ideas, this simple idea, into the world in some way. If you work for a client whose product or service aligns with water in some way, whether it's a spa or a hotel and they're hurting, whether it's a kayak company or a boating company, there's so many different businesses in the travel and well-being sectors whose core is water. Help them understand this idea so that they can do their job better. And by doing their job better, they will help people heal. Because if you read the news lately, we had a crisis of red mind before this pandemic. we had a crisis of gray mind, workplace burnout before this pandemic, according to the WHO and the American Psychological Association. Now it's an order of magnitude or more serious, and not about to end. That's the long tail of this, is our emotional health. And the best tool I have in my toolkit, and the best advice I have to offer others, is to practice Blue Mind, to connect with your water. So that answer to that question where we began, what's your water? Prioritize that water, love it more, share it, take somebody, somebody who hasn't been out of the house in 70 days, get them safely, underline safely, securely, legally, to their water. And I know I'm well aware of the limitations and the closures of parks and beaches and pools, especially any public pools. We need to navigate that. We need to navigate it, legally and respectfully, but absolutely. And, help our leaders figure out how to do that, how to get more people in and out of the water safely. That's a creative design question, really. So that's my my hope and my message, and that I wanted to share with you here, this insight into Blue Mind, and how to practice it, and the invitation to join us as we build this groundswell. And so appreciate the opportunity to come on and share a few words. And I know that maybe there's some thoughts and some questions, and love to take the remaining time to pun intended, dive into those. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. Man, it's I've been watching the comments section as you've been speaking, and it's awesome to see how many people that Blue Mind resonates with. And I'm sure we have lots of questions from the audience on Blue Mind. And so we're going to do our Q&A similar. If you've been on one of our Zoom calls before, you should have down below on your panel in Zoom the ability to raise I believe it's down below, Mike, to raise your hand. If it's not, it's over in your participants window. Mike can correct me if he knows and I'm wrong. I can't see it because I'm a host, but raise your hand if you have a question, and then we will unmute you and let you ask your question directly to Jay, and then he will answer it. It looks like we've got Matt here with a question. I'm going to unmute you, Matt.
Oh, everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Hey, Jay, so a lot of this kind of what I'm getting from you is a lot of the water kind of is like kind of a mindfulness in a way. Was there a moment when you were growing up that kind of led you to inspire kind of going down this road and creating Blue Mind?
Yes, as a kid, I had I was pretty shy, I guess you call it introvert these days, and stuttered. And being underwater was my happy place. And I was, people don't talk to you underwater. They don't ask you questions, so you don't have to answer. So then you don't stutter. And so it's much preferable. So I had that insight as a kid and as a young person. And so I was attracted to that water, as a healing mode for me. And that led me to become a marine biologist, which is my background. And then I started to wonder a little bit, like, what if this feeling, this idea has dictated my life and my career, what is it? If it's that big of a deal? And I know a lot of people who feel the same way, and certainly several on this call. And so I went looking for a book about your brain on water, essentially, kind of like the books that are out there about your brain on music and your brain on just about anything. And I couldn't find a book about your brain on water. So I tried to convince other people to write it, and failed at that. and then pitched it to a guy named Oliver Sacks, who's a great late great Oliver Sacks, neurologist, water lover, music lover. And he said, "That's a fine idea. You do it." And that was like a lightning bolt, basically. You know, I have a lot of respect for him, his intellect and his opinion, and I took it very seriously. And so 5 years later, hand delivered a copy of Blue Mind to him. So that's kind of the story from, you know, the birth of the idea to the dude who kicked my butt into doing it, to being here with you guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Great question. Anybody else have a question for Jay? While we're doing that, while we're waiting for another hand to raise, Jay, I have a question for you, just about, you know, as you dove into studying the science side of water, what were some of the it's awesome that you like had this personal confirmation, right? Like you knew that you had personally experienced something, and then you went out to see what you could learn. What were some of the big things that, like, as you started to explore it, you were like, oh my gosh, maybe you didn't see it coming, or just like on the science side, something that you were like, this is really interesting how this correlated?
The science is interesting. I think the generally broad strokes here, but the science confirms what you probably feel and what you intuitively know. When we get to the water, our heart rate slows, our breathing rate slows. That's good. We calm down. Our cortisol levels drop. The feel good neurochemicals go up. It shifts our brain into what I call blue mind, but you know, psychologists and neuroscientists call it the default mode. So all of this stuff, the science shows that, yeah, all of what, you know, we sing and write about for millennia is in fact happening. It's a physiological response. What I think has been most surprising, though, is how forgotten that basic idea is. Breathing, as an example, or I mean, you see the rise of mindfulness and practices like yoga and breathing techniques. That's new. And we kind of we knew it, we lost it. Now we're bringing it back, at least in Western culture. What's been surprising is how useful those ideas are. So I've given keynotes at prison conferences where there are no pools, there are no lakes or rivers, there are no oceans, and figuring out how do we bring blue mind into prisons and prison-like environments, which you may feel that way about your workplace and your schools, but you know, the extreme would be the prison. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That was surprising, you know, working with hospice groups on applying blue mind science and practice to end of life care and loss and grief. We talked about that earlier. So the applications have really, for me, been the most surprising and fun and exciting aspects to working on this project for the last decade. Yeah, and I can imagine there are some ideas already percolating in the room here of applications of this basic, simple idea in ways I've never thought of, because this is such an amazing group of people.
I love it. Thank you. Any other questions? You've got the ability to raise your hand. So raise your hand if you have a question for Jay. And while we're waiting on some hands, I got to talk to Jay earlier this week, and I told him it was so confirming when we had a conversation about this, because I remember as a kid, we go to Bass Lake, California every year as a family, and my parents would always joke, I've done it for 30 plus years now, that I would spend 90% of my time in the lake, not on the side, but like literally in the lake. And it was just so funny thinking about how peaceful that memory is for me, like, and how much that is like a core part of like the calming sense of like, I felt good, you know, I felt whole in those moments. So it's just interesting personally. I think we probably all can experience that. Jenna, I see you asked how to raise your hand. If you can't raise your hand, I can find you and just unmute you. If you have a question and you're having difficulty doing that, I will. I can definitely do that. Jenna, I'm unmuting you now, or at least I'm trying to. Let's see if I can. Oh,
there we go.
There we go.
All
right. Or maybe I was doing it, you were doing it, we were both doing it. Awesome.
Hi, I have a quick question for you. So I am a born and raised Nebraskan. And when I moved out here 11 years ago, I, of course, loved the ocean. But because I'm not familiar with it, and I grew up watching, movies like Jaws and whatnot, I also have this fear of the ocean. When I first moved here, I lived in Carlsbad before moving more inland, and I love it, but I myself, I don't know if it's like I'm afraid that the sharks will smell the Nebraska beef in me or what, but I just have this fear about getting in the water. So I don't know. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that because, there's a lot of us transplants here in San Diego, and I think that due to certain life experiences or, where we were raised, there's different feelings about bodies of water.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've met a lot of people with some kind of fear for one reason or another, including my adoptive mother, who has a lifelong fear of water. She grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and was dumped by a boy basically, and now doesn't like swimming, and hasn't gotten over it. So there are a lot of, but I'll tell you her story. She likes the second floor balcony view of the water, and happy hour, margarita. So she doesn't need to be underwater. She doesn't need to be scuba diving. She doesn't need to be on a surfboard. She doesn't need to be even swimming. She likes to be by the water though. And that's her happy place. That's how she gets her blue mind on, is, when we were kids, watching us in the water made her very happy, very calm, very satisfied. Doesn't want the water to touch her face. Nothing about sharks in her fear, but still a fear. So that's really the answer. There isn't a right way to do it. And if you're comfortable dipping your toes in, splashing around a little bit, and sitting on the beach, listening to the waves, watching others surf, perhaps, great, do that. There's no bar that you're trying to reach. It's not a competition. And by the way, San Diego has, such a great bay, such a great ocean, but also lots of other ways to experience Blue Mind. And whether it's urban water, virtual water, and by virtual water, I don't mean just VR and digital technology. I mean art and design and sculpture and music and prose and poetry and all of that. Move the photography. If you have art or photography in your home related to water that makes you happy, move it around. If it feels like it's been in the same spot too long, just switch the location of the art. It's amazing. I have a couple pro tips that are like, they take 2 seconds, they cost nothing nearly. Move the art on your walls. Just do it. Don't second guess that. Just move the art around in your house a little bit. It will reactivate the awe and the wonder that you've once felt for that artwork that might have diminished because it's been sitting or hanging in the same spot. Here's another pro tip, and kind of a little off your question, but if you're in the bath or shower, a lot of people, a lot of creative people especially, say they get their best ideas in the water. Oliver Sacks said he got his best ideas while swimming. So he kept a notepad on the picnic table when he swam, or on the deck of the pool, so he could jot his ideas down. So the pro tip is put waterproof bath crayons, the ones that kids use in the bathtub. Put a few stash of those in your bathroom, if you have a soap dish or a soap basket, so that when you're standing there in the shower and you're like, whoa, best idea ever in a million gazillion years, this is the one, and I will remember it. I'm sure I'll remember it. And then you step out, you dry off, and you're like, ooh, I don't remember it. And it's really gone. you can at least jot like an acronym on the wall in your shower with the soapy crayon, and then photograph it, and then at least have a little note to self. You know, you don't write the whole essay necessarily. Anyway, pro tip: put a waterproof crayon in your shower so that you can just jot down. I mean, it's so stupid easy, but if that is a source of creativity in your life, don't lose it. You know, and I think another bit of advice for Californians. I was on an IG Live conversation about eco-anxiety, and we were talking about baths being a way to reduce anxiety in showers. And the host said, well, I feel so guilty when I take a shower because of, you know, water conservation issues. And so my advice is get rid of the guilt in the shower. Just put a timer, do whatever you have to do so that showers are joyful, period. That showers cannot be yet another source of guilt and fear and shame. Showers and baths should be pure joy. If they're not, you're doing something wrong. I'm not saying to waste water. Conserve water, low flow, share the bathtub, you know, whatever you need to do to be into water conservation. But get rid of the shame. Shower shaming is just dumb, and it actually, you know, interferes with the calmness benefit, you know, the anti-anxiety benefits and the creativity benefits of a good bath or shower. So another pro tip, if you feel anxious about showering, fix that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. That. I love that. Shower crayon blew up the chat. Everyone's like, yes, we need shower crayons.
I guarantee they're sold out on Amazon right now. If you
We got 2 questions that came through on the chat. One from Shelly. She said, by the ocean, why do they call them negative ions when they're super positive?
Oh, that's cute. Yeah. Well, because the negatively charged, but I love, that's a meme.
Yeah,
Shall
that is.
Please make that meme, hashtag Blue Mind it and put it out there.
I love it.
And by the way, that negative ion thing, it's ocean, but it's also any crashing water. So waterfalls, rivers, all those experiences.
And then we also have a question from Carolyn T. She isn't able to ask it because her camera's not working, but she said, I work in mental health, and how can we implement 100 Days of Blue Mind as we help individuals and ourselves practice this idea?
Yeah, so 100 Days of Blue Mind, the way to do it is to do it. There's no portal, there's no signing up. You just, if you're on social media, use your favorite social media and share your stories, and you know, whatever that means. It might mean like, hey, this is a movie that invokes water that I really love. I'm going to share that today, and if you get to the water, you can share that. But it creates that drumbeat of camaraderie and connection with those who are also participating, which is great. As far as, you know, practicing your work as a mental health professional, same thing. Add Blue Mind to your toolkit. Get in touch with me. I'll give you, you know, the book is full of citations if you want the science. We've got a Google Doc kind of Blue Mind RX that health practitioners have signed just to endorse. That's got gazillions of articles. If you need the science, happy to help. We have lots of resources, videos, podcasts, you name it. We just got tons of stuff. So patreon.com/bluemind. The majority of the content on there is free. Some of it's patron only, but you can get even the whole book. You'll find the whole book there. But add it to your toolkit and then share it with your colleagues. I'm all about getting our health professionals as well as our educators on board. The big mission with Blue Mind is common knowledge. We want everybody to understand their Blue Mind, have access to it, and practice it regularly. That's our mission. The only way to achieve common knowledge, true common knowledge, is through wildly artful collaboration. It's the only way. There's some cool research on common knowledge. I'll share the brief brief piece of it. So common knowledge has the highest level of collaboration. When you have private knowledge, the collaboration drops down to 15%. At shared knowledge, it's in the middle, about 45%. So Steve Pinker at Harvard and his team, psychologists, have researched what happens when there's common knowledge. So I'm obsessed with making Blue Mind common knowledge because it just, supercharges collaboration. And that's what we need. We got problems to solve. It's not going to happen without collaboration. So if Blue Mind is common knowledge, it means you know what I know, and I know that you know what I know, and vice versa. And that's like this high level starting place for a conversation and collaboration. So the science is clear. Common knowledge is useful. So making Blue Mind common knowledge especially available to healthcare practitioners right now, so important. Emotional health professionals, so very important. I don't want to, I'm really careful about the medical side of things, but Blue Mind has saved lives. The knowledge that being near and on and underwater can reduce stress has saved lives. It's certainly improved lives, but it has also saved lives. People carrying a lot of anxiety, those anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress, finding their way, reconnecting with their water. I have seen it save lives. So, and it's, it's our planet, back to the nature theme. It's available to all of us.
I love it. I love it. This has been so inspiring and in such a wonderful conversation, Jay. Thank you so much for giving us your time this morning and sharing with us about Blue Mind. I know all of us, I've literally planning in my mind for later today, going for a walk on the beach. So, so I just appreciate you sharing all this. And can we thank Jay? I know you can't, we're not going to unmute everyone, but there's clapping hands emojis. There's also the chat. Thank you so much for what you've shared. We've shared info about how to get in touch with Jay, check out his work, check out the book, check out all the different ways that you can really practice Blue Mind. Would love to see our community using that hashtag as we participate in our own Blue Mind events over the next 100 days. We have another successful Creative Mornings in the books. So thank you to everybody for contributing this morning and for being with us as we continue to champion the creative community here in San Diego. And while we're continuing to do it, we'll probably remain doing it digitally for probably many months to come. We're grateful for the opportunity to do it. And as we sign off for the day, there's really not too many more events. Oop, there we go. Blue background just to encourage everybody with my my water feature background. But we don't have too many more announcements or anything like that, but stay up to date on what we're doing and what our partners are doing, what past speakers are doing via our Instagram, predominantly where we can get connected and stay connected and engaged in the community as we move forward. And but last but not least, if you haven't participated in recording yourself doing the manifesto so that we can produce a video of our local community sharing the manifesto, I encourage you to check that out and do that as well. I'm getting played off the stage. So with that, I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Look at that. Look at that right there. That's awesome. Well, take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Happy Friday, and we'll see you all next month.